Thank you so much for the introduction. It is a real privilege to be here with you. Honorable Chancellor, Paramount Chief of the Futu Traditional Area, Nana Nene Gate, you are welcome. Distinguished Vice Chancellor of the University, Prof. Mitchell, I always enjoy your presence, your sense of humor, way of allaying every fear. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Members of the University Council, provosts, deans, heads of department, faculty, staff, and students. The Minister of Education, ably represented by the Deputy Minister, Honorable Apak. I didn't know we had some things in common until we met behind the scene. UNESCO Rep, Dr. Mukala, it has been a pleasure just hearing you speak. And thank you for what you are doing for Africa. Distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, I'm greatly honored to be here with my great friend, Professor P.L.O. Lumumba. In a way, I love my role because I am like John the Baptist, the voice crying in the wilderness, preparing the way for you. Thank you so much for coming to Ghana again. Ghana is your home, and we welcome you back to where you belong. It is with profound gratitude and humility that I stand before you today at this esteemed university, noted for its unique role of training the future teachers of our nation. Thank you for extending this invitation to me to speak on the theme, Empowering Minds, Shaping Futures, the prospects and challenges of Ghana's 21st century education. Before I share some few thoughts on the theme, allow me to publicly recognize two of my esteemed colleagues. Her Ladyship, Justice Dorinda Smith-Arthur, who is a High Court judge. She is also the Vice President for our Anansi Center. Thank you so much for coming. I also want to recognize Dr. James Kwabena Bonfe. Oh, where are you? There he is. He's popularly known as Dr. Kabila. He's a social commentator, political thinker, advocate for persons with disability, and also a staunch Nkrumahist. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Let me begin my presentation at the beginning with a definition. The definition of education. Simply put, education is mind empowerment. In fact, several well-known quotes on the purpose and nature of education clearly suggest that education is mind liberation, mind empowerment. Albert Einstein said, quote, "Education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think." Martin Luther King Jr. said, quote, "The function of education is not to teach, is not just to teach, but to teach people to think intensively and to think critically." In this presentation, I would adopt the definition given by the father of African education, the Booker T. Washington of Africa, Dr. J.E.K. Agri. He said, and I quote, "By education, I do not mean simply learning. I mean the training in the mind, in morals, and also in hand. That helps to make one socially efficient." He continues by saying, not simply the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic, but the 3 H's, the head, the hand, and the heart. Finally, in her classic book titled Education, a contemporary of Dr. Aggrey offers a more expanded definition of education. Ellen White wrote, true education means more than the pursuit of a certain course of study. It means more than a preparation for the life that now is. It has to do with the whole being and with the whole period of existence possible to man. True education, she says, is the harmonious development of the physical, the mental, and the spiritual powers. It prepares the student for the joy of service in this world and for the higher joy of the world to come. What is common in all of this, if you were paying attention, is the clear acknowledgement that, amongst other things, education is the empowering of the mind. And when minds are thus empowered, it has the potential of transforming the lives of individuals and that of the larger society. It is for this reason that education has long been recognized as the cornerstone of development. In fact, Nelson Mandela aptly declared, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And Ghana's first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, placed education at the heart of national development. He championed policies that expanded access and laid the foundation for an educated citizenry. The question before us today, which I am sure our distinguished guest speaker, Professor Lumumba, would help us answer is, what will it take to equip students with the right mindsets and skills as well as values for the 21st century? As I was preparing for this lecture, honestly, I didn't know what to say. As up to last night, I had about 25 pages of notes with an order of up to 10 points. Then I thought perhaps I should play a trick on all of you. Instead of giving a lecture, I'll simply stand before you and share some slides about what it means or what an empowered man looks like. I'll simply share with you the stories of ordinary students who have been empowered and what they are doing in Ghana, on the continent of Africa, and the world. But I felt that, hey, I'm before you, so I have to say something to sound a little scholarly. So I decided that of the 10 points or the 10 headings, at least I'll just handle one of them. The rest are just footnotes. So what I'm coming to do, I'll begin by sharing with you Ghana's education, past and present. The great Nigerian writer Chinua Achebe once said, if you don't know where the rain began to beat you, you cannot know where your dried body. And so before we even talk about the future of education, let us briefly reflect on where we have come from and where we are today. Let me give you a brief historical context. Ghana's educational journey began long before the colonial contact. It began with indigenous systems of knowledge, which were deeply embedded in our cultural practices. Then, during the colonial era, our present formal Western education was introduced primarily by missionary organizations, with the first Castle School established in Elmina in 1644. Post-independence, under the visionary leadership of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, education became the central pillar of nation building, with the Education Act of 1961 making primary education free and compulsory. Since then, our educational system has undergone various reforms. The 1987 educational reform introduced the junior and senior secondary school system. In 2007, reforms brought about further structural changes, and more recently, the introduction of the free senior high school policy in 2017. Each of these reforms attempted to address the educational needs of the country at different stages of our development. It is these historical antecedents that have shaped our current educational landscape. And so now, permit me to present to you the state of education in Ghana today. I am even wondering whether to say what I'm about to say, because you expect some good news from me. But let me begin with the bad news. Because at no time do we have the highest concentration of teachers and the highest concentration of professors like we have right now. In this very room are the educators par excellence. So what do I tell you? In the months leading to this lecture, I interviewed a number of people and read quite a bit to get a sense of what people think about the state of education in Ghana, why education is what it is, and what should be done about it. In the next few minutes, I will share with you my observation and evaluation of the present state of education in Ghana. And Professor Lumumba, you are welcome to Ghana. Allow me to tell you what Ghanaians think about the state of education. And I know the Lord will place on your heart to speak to our souls and our consciences. I'll begin by sharing with you this statement. If education is a passport to the future, Ghana's passport is filled with expired visas. We are trying to enter the 21st century with credentials that were forged in colonial classrooms. My assertion is not without basis. In fact, the following unsettling questions call for honest answers. Is our education system truly preparing people for the 21st century? Why are graduates jobless, but employers struggle to find skilled laborers? Is Ghanaian education creating thinkers or trained robots? Here's my thesis statement. Education should not be a factory line producing certificates. It should rather be a furnace refining minds for useful service in today's world and the world to come. And I have data to support this. According to the Ghana Statistical Service report, 23% of tertiary educated individuals experience long-term unemployment. By the age of 10, according to the World Bank, nearly 80% of Ghanaian children cannot read and understand a simple sentence. It seems to me that our present educational system is not only woefully inadequate for the present needs, but also for the future. Why are our educational system needing overhauling? I'll offer 5 reasons. We are teaching the 21st century using a 19th century model. Our curriculum is bloated with theory, but bankrupt in creativity. Our classrooms are lecture heavy, but engagement light. And the data supports this. According to the UNESCO Global Education Monitoring Report 2022, learning in Ghana remains predominantly by rote. Standardized testing dominates, but real life-skill acquisition is minimal. If post-independence leaders walked into our classrooms today, they would find our classrooms unchanged from what they left. But if we walked into a 21st century workplace, we would be unfit. Another reason why we need to look at the educational system is we seek to impart knowledge, but is the knowledge we are imparting practically relevant? We have engineers who cannot fix a light bulb. I'm one of them. We have lawyers who can't argue a case in court. Accountants who cannot analyze figures. Teachers who cannot teach. And graduates who cannot write a coherent paragraph. You see, friends, degrees don't equal competence. There is a gaping disconnect between academia and industry needs. And the data supports it. According to ISA, the State of Ghanaian Economy 2022, 40% of employers in Ghana say our graduates lack critical problem-solving skills. What good is a first-class degree if it leads to a third-class life? The point is this: the education system is divorced from entrepreneurship, innovation, and critical thinking. Another reason for the state of education in Ghana is our education is training people for poverty and not prosperity. We produce job seekers, not job creators. The system rewards paper over productivity. The obsession with white-collar jobs has stifled innovation and entrepreneurial spirit. Once again, the data supports it. I'll just quote you the data. Though 38% of Ghanaians engage in early-stage entrepreneurship, the system does little to build upon it. Our education trains students for job queues, not value creation. Another thing about our educational system is it silences minds. Our classrooms are graveyards for curiosity. We drill students to regurgitate, not to reason. Creativity is punished. Conformity is rewarded. Students memorize formulas, but they can't solve problems. The radical question to answer is this: is our education a system relic of colonial control, or is it a tool for national development? There's another reason. I told you I'm here to bear the bad news. And then after that, we'll begin to solve the problems. There is a mental colonization of students through our educational systems. Our students know Shakespeare, but not Aikwe Ama and Chinua Achebe. We know Isaac Newton and Albert Einstein, but we do not know of Isaiah Blankson and Ashite Trebi Olenu in their contributions to NASA space exploration, aeronautics, and robotics. We know of these great scientists, but how many of us know of Thomas Mensa, a pioneer in the development of fiber optic manufacturing and nanotechnology? Do we know of Professor Francis Alote in the field of mathematics and astrophysics? Our schools of music celebrate classical composers like Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, and Tchaikovsky. But we seldom highlight our own classical composers like Dr. Ephraim Amu, Professor J.H. Kwabranketia, Dr. Philip Beho, Dr. Kenneth Kafui, exceptional Ghanaians who have given a wealth of inspirational and patriotic music that have molded the ethos and thinking of our nation, our continent, Africa, and the world. Our curriculum glorifies foreign heroes, and erases African geniuses. We still think in English, we write in borrowed philosophies, and dream in foreign paradigms. And the UNESCO report bears this out. 90% of African secondary syllabi reflect Western worldviews. 90%. Until we teach from our own story, we will continue living in someone else's future. I'll give another point. There are suggestions in view of all these realities. You just pay attention. Ask people on the street, tell me about education in Africa, in Ghana, and they'll start telling you this. And then I ask them, so what should we do about them? And here are some of the responses I got, and as I reflected through the literature, I came to the conclusion that these make sense. Suggestion number one, we must move from the classroom to the marketplace. Our education must produce wealth. Every student must graduate with monetizable skill. Entrepreneurship should become core, not cosmetic. STEM, AI, digital skills must be at the core of education. A benchmark, we can look at what Rwanda is doing, where it has mandated technical vocational pathway by the age of 15. Let graduation in our schools be a launch pad, not a finish line. Another suggestion, we must move from degree to delivery, from practical industry-linked education that must form the hub of our educational system. Universities must partner with industries. Ghana must adopt a dual educational system, 50% classroom, 50% in the real world practice. There are best practice. We can look at the German better housing building, modern, integrates hands learning, and it has reduced unemployment in Germany to under 6%. You see, theory without traction is fiction. We must move our educational emphasis from dumping information on students to allowing them to think. In other words, we must raise a generation that questions. We must not just accept the status quo. We must put quo in the status. Exams should assess creativity, not cramming. Schools must teach disruption, not just blind obedience. We must encourage artistic expression, entrepreneurship, and non-traditional success pathways. And we must allow our students to experiment, even to fail. For if we don't allow them to fail, we are failing them. Finland eliminated standardized testing below age 16, and they are doing very well. So let's not just raise students to mindlessly obey, but rather to lead. That leads me to suggestion number 4. We must move from foreign models to indigenous solutions. We must teach African history, African science, literature, and innovation, not just the Western thought. We must develop an Afrocentric curriculum rooted in local reality and global excellence. A case in point, Kenya's competency-based curriculum includes African history, practical skills, and civic entrepreneurship. We must stop exporting our best minds to build other nations. It is time to build Ghana, not allow our best to leave our shores. Our schools must produce patriots, not escape artists. We must move from access to empowerment. Ghana's rural digital coverage is only 32%, according to the Ghana Chamber of Telecoms. We need equity in digital infrastructure, teacher training, and curriculum tools. A child who is born in Bolgatanga must have the same digital privileges as the one who is born in East Legon. We must let students have a say in their future. We must center youth voice and youth well-being. What this may mean is we must establish innovation councils, prioritize mental health, emotional intelligence, and resilience. And we must let the students, the young people, tell us the future we are envisioning. You know, I was at one African Union event during the consultation for Agenda 2063. I happened to be one of the few diasporans invited to add my views. At that time, I had published my book, Africa Must Think. So they brought about 40 scholars from the diasporan world. And I'm not just talking about Africans in diaspora, but black people from ages, from South America, Central America, etc. And then when it was my turn to present, it caught me off guard to look around the 40 representatives who are to give input for another 50 years of Africa life. I discovered all the people there were old. And so I asked, with all due respect, Mr. Organizers of this African Union event, we are planning for the youth. In 2 weeks' time, we will all be dead. So where are the youth? My point is this: mind empowerment and youth empowerment means that if the future belongs to the youth, let them help in designing it. In fact, an annual conference of this kind must have some young people here to speak to us. Otherwise, we are doing a disservice. Our education must also promote African values, African ethics, and character development. What is the essence of an education if it does not develop the students for service? And I'm not talking about self-service, I'm talking about public service. What value is our education if we don't inculcate the spirit of volunteerism amongst our people? Of what use is our education if we train brilliant but corrupt graduates? Mahatma Gandhi said, education without character is a social sin. C.S. Lewis said, education without values, as useful as it is, seems rather to make man more clever devil. In fact, one African scholar, Kingsley Asamoah, said, education without morality creates educated devils, and educated devils abuse, corrupt, and destroy institutions and systems. If you want to know the problem of Ghana, the problem of Africa, it is because we have educated people without values. And so we have corruption at the highest level. My own former profession, engineering, tops the list of the most corrupt professionals in Ghana. Just before COVID, I was to come and give the keynote address for the Ghana Institute of Engineers, as well as the American counterparts. And one of the concerns is, of all corrupt people in Ghana, it is not the police, it is not the politicians, it is engineers. So what is the value of an engineering degree when we are corrupt? What is the value of an accounting degree when we are corrupt? True education leads to a change of mindset and an attitude that will produce the leaders and citizens we want. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah painted a picture of the kind of citizenry we should. And allow me to quote it. Africa needs a new type of citizen, I'm quoting, a dedicated, modest, honest, and informed man. A man or a woman who submerges self in service to the nation and mankind. A man who abhors greed and detests vanity. A new type of man whose humility is his strength and whose integrity is his greatness. That is Kwame Nkrumah. And in his inaugural Independence Day speech, that midnight speech, when you go there, you will see Kwame Nkrumah saying, we need a new kind of African with a new mindset. So if we are talking about empowering minds, the empowerment of our minds is to produce not just leaders, but citizens across the board who exude these values. Ellen White says the greatest want of the world is not the want of men. Men who will not be bought or sold. Men who in their inmost souls are true and honest. Men who do not fear to call sin by its right name. Men whose consciences are true to duty as a needle to the pole. Men who will stand for the right though the heavens fall. These are the values that must emanate, that must come out of our educational systems. Ladies and gentlemen, I've just given you the executive summary, and I need not say more. In fact, in the remaining 9 points, I add details with facts. And in order not to leave you in despair, Ghana is doing some amazing things in our educational systems. Incredible things. Sometimes you live in it so you don't even realize it. And so I'll just give you the highlights. My next point, I would have talked about the global context of education, because we cannot talk about in the future of African education, Ghanaian education, without taking into consideration the global context. And we don't also have to ignore the African context, which is enshrined in the aspirations of Agenda 2063. 21st century, of which we are talking about, is characterized by unprecedented technological advancement, globalization, complex socio-economic challenges, the fourth industrial revolution, marked by artificial intelligence, robotics, biotechnology, etc., etc. And I wish I can give you the figures. What UNESCO is telling us, the World Economic Forum tells us, the skills most in demand now, in the next future, they would not be needed. What will be needed? Critical thinking, creativity, emotional intelligence, complex problem solving. And then UNESCO also gives us other information. And then, of course, I could talk about Ghana's current realities. But for the sake of those who may be listening to this and think it's all bad news in Ghana, let me mention that Ghana is doing marvelously well in digital transformation in our educational systems. Since COVID-19, Ghana is developing virtual classrooms to digital libraries. The iCampus initiative, the Edmundo Ghana are examples of digital platforms Ghana is innovating. The Ministry of Education's One Teacher, One Laptop initiative. Yes, I know there are problems with this implementation, but it marks a step in the right direction. I can talk about curriculum renewal. Ghana is also doing tremendously well, and I would say that this university is at the forefront of such discussions. Curriculum renewal based on competency-based curriculum. I can talk about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Now we have added A, the arts. So it's not just STEM, it is STEAM. And then TVET, technical vocational education and training. Ghana is also doing well in teacher development. The Teacher Professional Development Framework, which is being rolled out, yes, in fits, is something worth celebrating. Industry education partnerships is another thing Ghana is doing well. We are teaming up with strategic partners. Universities like KNUST have established innovation hubs that connect students with industry. University of Ghana Business School has an innovation and incubation hub. Amstead, I was there 2 weeks ago, has also a hub. I was at the University of Energy and Natural Resources. They are doing similarly. And the Vice President tells me, I was here last year, that is what this university is also doing. So yes, We are doing some good things. Another good thing we are doing, we are inculcating indigenous knowledge in our educational system. The African Studies Association has documented some of the things we can do. I can talk about Afrocentric education in a modern context. Ghana is also leading the way. And I can talk about how it is spreading to our chieftaincy, the Manshia Palace Museum's digital archive. Mobile applications like Learn-Chui, the convergence of Afrocentric content and modern technological delivery. Ghana is doing well, but can we do better? Absolutely. And so conversations of this kind should not just have a candid assessment of the state of education. We must also laud the good things we are doing and strengthen and improve upon it. There are challenges. And the challenges include resource constraints. Always we talk about money. There are challenges on quality versus quantity dilemma. We are pumping out graduates from the high schools and universities, but the quality is low. What I said about religion applies to our education. It is 100 kilometers wide, 1 millimeter deep. Digital divide, not only along gender, but also along abilities. Assessment paradigms are challenges. Teacher motivation and quality. I recall when our honorable poet, by the way, that poet did marvelous. Let's give him a hand. And he mentioned that, the teacher's salary is nothing to take home with. And I saw the cheers. Rightfully so. But monetary incentives are not enough. We need a generation who believe that there is something more compelling than monetary gain. And so we need to work. Our teachers today should not just be preoccupied with pay, but we must offer the very best, knowing that God will help provide for us. Yes. Finally, allow me, I can tell you are all looking for the money. In fact, that is why 68,000 of you have enrolled here. You get free allowance, free money, but listen, with all due respect, the money will come, but let's do things right. All right. I think I've said more than enough. Let me close it. I mentioned that originally I was going to conclude by showing you slides of ordinary Ghanaians who sat in lectures like this, some of which I delivered on the various university campuses. They took it, and now they are having an impact in many fields. But time wouldn't allow. So let me conclude. As I conclude, I'm reminded of Paulo Freire, a Brazilian educator and philosopher, his conception of education as a practice of freedom, an emancipatory process that enables individuals to read both the word and the world. In the context of Ghana's education, we need an education that is liberating in multiple dimensions. Liberation from poverty through relevant skills. Liberation from ignorance through access to quality learning experiences and information. Liberation from prejudice through education that promotes critical consciousness and social justice. We need liberation from dependency through fostering creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurial mindset. The challenges facing Ghana are formidable, but so is our collective resilience and ingenuity. The University of Education, WINNEBA, as Ghana's foremost teacher education institution, has a pivotal role in the transformation journey. By preparing teachers who can navigate complexities of the 21st century, UEW contributes directly to shaping the future of our nation. I call upon all stakeholders, government officials, educators, parents, students, and community to commit to a renewed vision of education that is truly empowering and future-oriented. In the words of Dr. Agri, only the best is good enough for Africa. Education, ladies and gentlemen, is more than an institution. It is a social contract that binds us to future generations. Let us be bold in our reforms, unwavering in our commitments, united in our vision for Ghana, where every learner has the opportunity to reach their fullest potential. Friends, the time to act is now. Ladies and gentlemen, now is a defining moment. To policymakers, don't fund bureaucracy, fund ideas. To educators, don't just dump information, not just curricula, but teach people to think and to do. Students, demand growth, not just grades. Industry, invest in minds, not just profits. Will Ghana's education system be a burial ground of dreams or a launch pad for national transformation? An empowered mind is a dangerous thing. It is dangerous to ignorance, dangerous to poverty, and dangerous to oppression. The question is, will Ghana unleash its minds or continue to silence them? Thank you very much.